There's hope for my city. We are the chosen ones. We are the light, reflecting His only Son.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're happy that you're with us again. We have someone here with us tonight. This fella is he's one of a kind. He's that guy when you need something, you call him, and he's going to do everything he can to help you out. If you need an answer, if he doesn't know it, he's going to find it for you. You know, he's that guy that if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you just need somebody to talk to, you call him, he's going to answer, and he's going to talk to you. This guy is a guy that I can tell you that for over the past 30 years, I can say I can always count on him, no matter what the circumstances are. This evening, y'all, I want to introduce y'all to the one and only Jeff Aguirre.
Well, thank you for having me. That's, yeah.
Get a hand clap. Let's go.
Man, how do you respond to that kind of introduction? It's good to be here. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. And you're right. It's been 30 years, 31 years now. So
31 years.
I'm glad to be here, guys.
Well, we're glad to have you. Jeff, why don't you kick it off with, let's talk about that, about your experience together.
Man, so, you know, when I graduated, man, it's been longer than that.
Let's see.
Because
we're probably sophomores in high school, I bet.
Yeah.
Because we went driver's ed together.
Yeah. So neither one of us could drive.
Yeah.
We thought we could.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah. So no, we did. We started college in 90. We graduated in 91, and you know, probably went to driver's ed a couple of years before that. So
Wow.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. So tell us about, so you were saying earlier about the where you're from and then how that expands all the way out to how you even, can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, you know, growing up, I kind of moved around a little bit from South Waco out to the country and then bounced back to South Waco. But one thing I was always aware of is if we played basketball against each other or football or ran track, I made friends in every school. I made, you know, Riesel or Axtell or, you know, Bosqueville, wherever we played ball.
Yeah.
You know, and that was just that guy that always, like he said, I'm the guy that you call when you need to talk to somebody. When you need an answer, when you need somebody to help you do it, I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
And that's never changed. It was always that way back then, and it was one of the deals with him. As soon as we met each other, we were instant friends.
Yeah.
We shared a lot of friends, and then through them, we just kind of made a new friendship, and it's always been that way.
Yep.
Man, that's all right.
Yep.
Well,
It's been awesome.
How so? How so?
It's been awesome because you know during when we were coming up, you know, we're just a little bit older than you are, Pastor G, but you know, during that time, you know, that was when the crack was in the streets. I mean, it was huge. You know,
Wow.
You know, everything was huge then, and you know, just to see a lot of the guys that were our buddies then, see where they are now and see where we are. You know, and it's something. You know, because good people make bad choices, and it's just, we know a lot of good people, but just unfortunately, you know, they made some bad choices. And, you know, and like Jeff said, you know, blessed, you know, because both of us are. We're blessed to be able to make better choices and have that, you know, that encouragement. And what really gets it for me is to know that, you know, just because those guys make those bad choices, hey, you know what, we see you. But we're still able to encourage you and let you know, say, man, it's okay. You know,
True story.
You made a bad choice. You know what I'm saying? But it's all good. You know, you can get beyond this. You know, Jeff has a lot of great stories because I know, man, being right there. You know, I being at the jail. We'll just identify it as the jail. And Jeff met a lot of people. You know, when we were young. He met a lot when we were young, and he saw a lot.
I saw a lot.
Yeah, he saw a lot.
Well, you got to remember, like he's talking about when he starts talking about when crack was on the street and everybody was running wild. Everybody was wilding out, man. It was the '80s, you know. We grew up in the you know, all throughout the '80s. We graduated in the early '90s. We became professionals in what we did in the, you know, the mid '90s.
Yep.
And everybody we grew up with that was wilding out when we were kids, you know, as we start to get into our professional careers, those people that were making those choices that went down that other road, Now we're seeing them on a professional level. We're not seeing them. We're not seeing them on Valley Mills Drive in the Steak and Hell parking lot.
Right.
You know, we're seeing them in jail. So, man, the jail was an experience for me jumping off. I mean, you saw it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. You know, started downtown back in the old jail, and where it was kind of more of a hands-on type deal. There wasn't as much
At
separation.
the glass house and everything?
Yeah,
Man.
second floor.
Oh, man. All right, so hold on. So let's make a pit stop right there.
That's High Five, the Glass House. You know, those people. There's some people out there that know. What. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, if y'all can identify with the glass house, if you're out there, man, please comment. We want to hear your feedback. So share some of your experiences there in the glass house and downtown.
It was a culture shock. You know, like I said, grew up South Waco and ended up going out to a country school out in Valley Mills, and then coming back to Waco and you're sitting in there and you're seeing things that. I mean, grown men doing stuff that grown men shouldn't be doing.
Right.
I mean, and you gotta talk to them and say, hey, what did you do to get here? And then you hear their stories, and the hustle doesn't stop just because they were incarcerated. The hustle got worse because at that point it becomes instead of a way of life, it becomes survival for life.
Right.
When you start making spread and you start making hooch and you start arcing stuff off so you can heat up water, and people hoarding meds and selling meds, and the fights and the improvised weapons. I mean, it was an experience. And I wasn't always this size. I started out a small fella. So
Really?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So in your discovery there, without some of that being too graphic or whatever, what's some of the most interesting stuff that you had to discover?
My deal was always the people that would come in that were in mental crisis.
Okay.
And we had one guy come in that had killed his grandmother, and I was there the night they brought him in, and he was so they talk about that 1,000-yard stare when they they look through you. That was to that point in my life one of the most scared or intimidated that I'd have ever been. Because I knew what he had just done. The officers had told me about it.
Yeah.
And he's standing there in front of you, and you're not even there. It doesn't register.
Right.
And you just think, and he was insanely strong. And then you get those people that just that that hurt your heart because you watch them. They go to the pink room or they sit in their cell and they detox, and they go through the whole array of emotions or detox. When they come down, they build up, and then they come down, they explode, and then they go back up, and it's just up and down. You got to take that ride with them because it's your job to watch after them. So that's there's a lot of OJT in the jail.
OJT.
On the job training.
On the job training.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you function in being a human, right? Like, so that is your job, right? But you're human and you're having a bad day because we all have them at some point, right? They're having a bad day. And I know you got to remain professional, but how tough is that to stay healthy with how you deal with people?
Man. That's a good question because as police officers, a lot of people forget that while we're out there and we're dealing with somebody and they're having a bad day, police officers have bad days too, and we have to approach them and it's almost like you're not allowed to have them. You're not allowed to have them because you got to be switched on. I mean, you got to be compassionate. You just can't bull through everything. You've got to be compassionate. You got to care about people, but you still got a job to do.
That's right.
You still got to stay switched on, and that comes to the time, there comes a time when you do have to get elevated to the next level.
Sure.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you got to remember, hey, I have a certain way, there's a use of force continuum, and you say, okay, I'm going to have to elevate to the next use of force, and then you start putting your hands on people. Well, you got to take all of your emotion and all of your anger, and you got to check that at the door, because if not, it's going to get you in trouble.
Right.
So there's a lot of emotions that go in. And it's a lot of it's you know, being a lot of people think being a cop or being a police officer is easy, and on its face it is. But you got to think about all the things that police officers juggle on a daily basis. Where are they in their life at that particular moment? I know when I walk up to somebody and they lash out, police officers very rarely have to say, where are you in your life? If you walk up to somebody and they're upset in today's society, they are going to tell you quick.
Yes.
They're going to call you things. They're going to let you know exactly where their mindset is. And if you're in a bad place, you're just going to have to deal with it. You got to eat it for a little bit.
Yep. And that's one of the things that, you know, it takes a lot of de-escalation, redirecting, and everything, you know, to be a police officer, because you're going to be in those situations. Because anytime that we are involved in a situation, the other person is in a crisis. And they're calling us because we have all the answers. It's our time to be a counselor, you know. It's our time to be the preacher, you know. It's our time to be the dad, the uncle, you know. You got to change that hat, you know. So we are out around with a whole bunch of hats in the car, and depending on what the situation is, determines which hat we're going to have to put on, you know. And so that's one of the things, you know, that really takes a person who has a lot of inner peace to be able to do. You got to have that inner peace, because if you're an angry person, you're not going to be able to switch, because at any moment you got to switch. You know, you're switching from dad to uncle to grandpa, whatever, you know, it needs to keep the situation de-escalated. That's what you got to do, you know.
And you got to remember, you know, when we started this conversation talking about being incarcerated and working in corrections, nobody wants to be there. Everybody's mad, you know. It's a bad day every day for most people that are incarcerated. You know, some people find peace with who they are and what they've done and the countdown, you know, the calendar that comes with it. But for the most part, in jail and prison, two different things. You know, people can find peace in prison. But in jail, there's always hope. You know, there's always hope that they're going to beat the case. There's always hope that something's going to happen and spring them out. And when it doesn't happen, you know, from the time that happens to the time they catch chain, more often than not, those people are not happy on an everyday basis.
Wow. And their mental and emotional state is like everywhere, right? It's
True story.
Yep.
Wow. Man, so in the county, when you were working in downtown there in the Glass House, in that area, did you have people that recognized you? And what happened whenever people recognized you?
You know, my deal was they would recognize me when they'd come into the booking desk. You know, remember that booking desk is a very small area.
Yeah.
When you come in, it's just like a little walk area. There's literally a booking desk. And then all the cells were behind it, like in a U shape. And, you know, you got to do count every hour. So, you know, if some of your buddies that you run around with, you know, got a little too much at the bar and you're walking through there and you hear somebody yell, you will hear somebody yell out your name.
Yep.
You just kind of, man. And then you go back, hey, can I use the phone? Hey, can you help me get out? Hey, can you do this? And you're like, man, no, you're going to have to eat it. You see the judge in the morning like everybody else.
Yep.
Oh, so they automatically go to do me a favor.
Yeah.
Yes.
When they know you. It's not, hey, how you doing? It's like, hey, do me a solid.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And, you know, I heard I don't know if I can say this. You might have to edit this out.
Okay.
One of my favorite lines is I heard Chief Victorian speak one day, and she said when it come to putting people in jail, she said, I'd put my own mama in jail. She said, I'd bond her out the next morning, but if she deserved it, she'd go to jail. And I was like, I like it. And, you know, that's what you have to do because, man, all the time, hey, can you help me out? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? Nope, I'm not compromising it. You know, the rules are the rules. That's why you're on that side and I'm on this side.
Right.
You know, not to be judgmental, but, You know, I'm scared to get in trouble. I would not do well in prison.
No.
There you go. There you go. So let's talk about family then. Have you ever had to see any family members or engage with family members?
Man, I told you, I grew up in the South. Yeah.
So talk to me about the feelings associated with all that and what happened.
No, I've been really fortunate, man. I say that jokingly. I've been really fortunate. I haven't had to deal with any family members. You know, they've all run. You know, a lot of them run in and out of there.
Yeah.
And but never really on my watch. Maybe a couple of them here and there. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those deals. You just kind of they understand. You know, that's the good thing is I've always told my friends. And I've always told. And correct me if I'm wrong. I've always told police officers that I work with. You know, if it's important enough that they're name dropping me, then they know not to name drop me.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll address it tomorrow. I'll help them with advice and stuff, or I'll talk to them when they're not in that situation. But if they're dropping my name on the side of the road, the ones that matter know better than to do that.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you went
Absolutely.
You went from the working in the jail to what happened after that?
So I ended up putting myself through the police academy. I did a little bit of time working with juvenile probation as a boot camp instructor. I was a drill instructor.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, so I was a DI for juvenile boot camp.
Was it still? Was it? It was on
Old
Dallas,
location. Yeah.
Dallas Street.
Yeah.
Man, that was the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Bobby Campos was running it back then.
Oh, Bobby! Shout out to Bobby Campos, man. Where
Had a little
Bobby? If you out there, we just want to say what's up.
they had a lot of Baylor guys working there and old football players and stuff, and we're just trying to change those kids' minds. Just trying to make them understand what they did, trying to give them a little discipline, understand that you grow outside of your comfort zone. And that's what the boot camp thing was designed for, was to structurally push those kids out of their comfort zone. But not, you're not hurting them. They're not gonna break. But one day you might be picking up trash. The next day you might be on a 4 or 5 mile hike. It was designed to make them out of their comfort zone. But they also knew with those drill instructors that were running the program that no matter how hard we were on you. We were also going to soft hand you we weren't going to hug you, but if you needed a hug, not literally, but we'd give you a hug. If you're having a bad day, if you needed somebody to be soft to you, and we'd help you get through that as well.
Sure.
And that's one thing. Yeah, to be honest with you, that's kind of how I've raised my kids along the way.
Being able to nurture and have a solid fist and to be able to nurture as well. Let you know this is what it is. Here's the expectation. And I'm going to hold you to the expectation. I'm going to nurture you when you need to be nurtured, and I'm going to lay the law down when it needs to be laid down.
No, that's it.
I like that.
My kids are the same way. I still do it with my kids today. Yeah. And, I tell my kid, my oldest one and my youngest one are both athletic minded. Yours is too.
Yeah.
And I tell them, hey, if you can take me hollering at you and disciplining you and, every time they do, we had this conversation just the other night with my youngest. She's like, how come every time I do something good, you only talk about the bad stuff? And I told her a story about Kobe Bryant. Somebody asked Kobe one day, it was a reporter, asked him, said, hey, how come in your pregame shots you only take the shots that you miss? You never take the shots that you always make. And he's like, because I already make them. I want to get better, so I focus on the stuff I'm not good at.
Right.
And, I try to tell my kid, hey, as good as you are and as great as that was, let's focus on what you didn't do right, so next time we'll be better.
Right.
And it's kind of how I am with life in general.
Yeah.
Even myself. If I'm not really great at something, we're going to get great at it.
Yep.
There you go.
That's it.
There you go. So the old juvenile. So you were over there helping out over there. That back in our days, though, juvenile didn't have no, when we were all young, didn't have no boot camp or none of that stuff that I'm aware of. It might have, but I don't think none of that was. But anyway, so then you went from juvenile to the PD?
Yep. I put myself through police academy. I worked boot camp during the day.
Okay.
And did police academy during the night. And drove to Navarro College out in Corsicana every day. Every day, man, that's a long drive. But got it knocked out, and I applied for a job out in Hewitt, and got my first job I applied for, and I was there for about a year, and I was there for 8 years, but I was actually on the street for just a little over a year before they sent me to work narcotics. So even though I was employed by the city of Hewitt, I answered to the sheriff's office, and I was part of their Agriplex Drug Task Force.
Oh, okay. So you were working there. So you weren't a patrol officer necessarily?
Correct. No, I was an investigator. Worked narcotics, organized crime. No, I was employed by Hewitt. They wrote me a paycheck.
Okay.
My bosses were at the sheriff's office.
I got you. So you put in for an application to be in the narcotics division, I guess?
Well, they reassigned me after 1 year. Hewitt did.
Oh, after 1 year.
Yeah.
So, but you were in patrol for that 1 year. Mm-hmm. Okay. What was something that a takeaway from just being on the beat like that there in Hewitt?
Oh man, well, he said it a while ago. Those hats, those many hats. Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of stuff out there. It kind of all just runs together. There's some things that were accomplishments and some things that were failures. But one thing that's always stuck with me was when you talk about those hats. I had a lieutenant ask me one time. He said, "Why do we pull people over?" And the wrong answer was to give them tickets, because that's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he said no. We pull people over to gain compliance with the law.
Right.
He said, and you're going to go up there and you're going to talk to somebody, and you have to determine what's it going to take to make that person comply. Is it a verbal warning? Is it a written warning? Is it a ticket? Or are you taking that person to jail? And you got about 3 minutes to figure it out. You have to triage their situation, understand where their headspace is, and then you have to determine what's the best course of action to get them to comply with the law. It says not everybody needs a ticket. Not everybody needs to go to jail. You got about 3 minutes to figure it out. No problem. My first traffic stop, I walked up there. I was ready to go. I got to the back of the car. I touched the trunk, and they rolled down the window, and I looked, and I forgot my name. I didn't know what to say. I just stuttered.
You froze up.
I did. I stuttered and I stammered. And listen, here's the deal, man. If you can't laugh at yourself if you're not having fun, what are you doing?
Right.
It wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. We laughed about it for a couple of years after that.
So that was your first stop?
That was my first stop. But
man,
needless to say, that woman got let go.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey. So hit on something that some people may not be aware or familiar with. So when you touch the car, what's that all about?
Well, you do a lot of stuff. You put a thumbprint on it. It's not center of Los Angeles or nothing. You don't have people jumping out the trunk, but you also want to make sure it's pumped down. If you tap it, you never know. Somebody might tap it from the inside. You never know.
Yeah.
So there's a plethora of reasons for doing that.
All right. So there's a purpose behind that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then so just like in anywhere else, that was a job, right? You got hired to work there. You were basically a rookie, just starting off, right? Mm-hmm. When you go to a warehouse working, you're new, green around the ears, and you just got hired on the job, barely getting on the forklift. I mean, there's different ways to unpack this, but for you, it's in law enforcement, right? And so, you got folks that are young. For me, like being in prison, you got people that going into prison for the first time. I was one of them, right? But they're going there and, they're doing a lot of people that are young. They're well, the old schoolers call them crash dummies, but they go in and just acting crazy, Mm-hmm. And so they're making a whole bunch of boneheaded decisions and bucking the system and all that. The old school guys are just sitting back and they're just like, man, they're calm for the most part, right? And they're calm, they've been there, done that. So I'm saying all that so everybody that's watching can understand how, the way this unpacks in law enforcement is pretty much the same way it unpacks for us that are civilians and other kind of ways, shape, form, and fashion, but it's the same thing, right? So you're going to obviously make decisions that are different going in than you would midway in your career or whatever it is that you're doing. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that you didn't realize, that you look at now in hindsight and be like, shouldn't have done that. And so that's for all of us. But in law enforcement, you don't get the grace that we normally get, or it seems like. I mean, I'm not in law enforcement, but that's what it seems like.
It's not a total sum thing. You have room for error. I mean, that's law enforcement comes with a lot of discretion. There's only a couple of things on there that says we have to arrest you. And if you do something, we have to arrest you. Other than that, you have discretion.
Right.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is just confidence, and it comes with learning. It comes with experience. You got to. I tell my kids all the time, failure is not failure unless you just don't learn from it.
Right.
It's a learning experience when you don't succeed at something.
Right.
And I was listening to you talk, and you're talking about when you get in there and they make those boneheaded plays. Just here recently, currently right now I work for the district attorney's office, and I'm assigned to the Texas Anti-Gang Unit.
Yeah.
I'm the representative, I guess, for the DA's office, and we focus on the gang issues here locally.
Right.
And it seems that predominantly right now that the majority of our issues come from youth.
Yeah.
And we're just here recently I've seen young men go through the court proceedings. And even in those court proceedings, when you sit there and you're faced with everything you've done and the evidence is stacked against you, and there's, not the police officers, it's not the judges, it's not the attorneys, it's that jury sitting in a box that has listened to all the evidence, and they tell you as a defendant, they say you were wrong and we find you guilty. In the courtroom, waiting for their sentence, and the kids are still acting up. Just outbursts, knucklehead moves, just, nonsense. It's when you say, they do that when they go down, they're still doing it here. I mean, it's like, at what point do you understand that you've got to accept responsibility for your actions?
Yeah.
Right. I think with this older generation and y'all, and I think it just came easier.
I think because the youth now, they don't have any respect for anyone, not even themselves. And, if you look back at, the offenders, as we were growing up, respect was still there. I know that I'm doing wrong, but you know what? I'm not going to do it in front of Miss Johnson.
Right.
You know what I mean? But these kids now, they don't care. I'm going to rob Miss Johnson. They don't care. So for doing this for as long as we have been, that disconnect that we have with those youth, what do you think may be some strategies that we could use to try to mend that disconnect, to get plugged back in with these youth? Because, we know, of course, they are our future, and we're disconnected. I'm not going to say we're losing them, because I haven't given up, and I'm not, so how do we reconnect?
No, you're definitely not giving up. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we go to work. That's why we go to work every day.
Yes.
I don't know. Touch on two things. One thing you said was about the respect. I think there's a generation of parents that will openly say, "Hey, don't disrespect my child, or don't disrespect me."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that particular generation didn't know what respect was.
Right.
You can't call for something that you don't know what it is. And then, as far as how we fix them now, I don't know that giving people a free pass is the answer. I think holding people accountable. I think accountability is the key.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think I hate to say it, but these little kids out here that are wilding out and breaking into cars and stealing guns and shooting at each other, it's a game to them.
Yes.
I don't even know if it's a game to them. You know, I say it matters when they see their partners, you know, catch a sentence.
Yeah.
But you know, how is watching somebody go to prison, you know, any more severe than watching your buddy die?
Right. Right.
Yeah, you know, I would say, you know, weighing in on this, being from the other side, it's always been that way, just not as intense as it is now. Meaning the quantity, right, of folks, young people, because you know now we have a way to broadcast these things on back then all we had was a music to kind of help perpetuate our thoughts, ideas, or even give us more insight to excuse me, to things that would fuel our anger, disappointment, frustrations, because coming from that core back then, there was a core of young people in the city, which I was a part of, that were that bad. You know, everything you just said we were doing, stealing, shooting, you know, stealing cars, whatever, right? Not having no respect for adults, for anybody. It didn't matter what your age was. It didn't matter whether you had a uniform or not. There was a core group of us in different sides of the city that were like that, but the majority wasn't that way. There was just a core of us that were that way. And all we had was music. And music was giving birth, excuse me, back then, which was for us was hip hop, and it was gangster rap. There was hip hop, then you had rap, and then you had gangster rap. Gangster rap back then was just a small piece of that, right?
Right.
So now let's fast forward. So now not only do we have music, but we have but we have not just audio, but we got visual, right? We got video that goes along with that, and it's a 1,000 times more media than what it used to be. All we had was just the audio piece of it, and we may have seen a music video to it, but that's about it, right? And then now it's on a whole nother level, right? Which intensifies these things, which now the culture is what, so let's go back to the hip hop, for instance. You had hip hop, you had R&B, you had rap, then you had gangster rap, which was a hardcore deal of the street life and went into details about stuff. And so now that's not a small piece, it is the piece, right? And so now you see it on the Super Bowl, you'll see it on the late night talk shows. You see it everywhere, right? And that's just on TV. Now, TV is nothing, or radio is nothing compared to what social media broadcasting or platforms are today.
Right.
And so now everybody has the ability to broadcast themselves. They can be their own TV station, radio station, and unfortunately, the good, bad, and very ugly and dark comes with that. And so now there is a place where they can feel heard, right? And it's not. It doesn't just stay in a local, but it's broadcast nationwide, right? And so, for me, it's always existed because I was a part of that, the murders, and all that stuff. And but now it's the main thing, and our kids are still broken, still hurt people, and their brain ain't even fully developed, as everybody knows. And so, but now it's different times, it's a different society, and it's very, very intensified with violence. And so now it's it's the thing to do. Now it's not awkward or weird to see that anymore.
He said we went from Sugar Hill Gang to NWA overnight.
Yeah, straight like that.
Yeah.
We went from the hip hop, the hip
hop.
Yeah, to F the police. So, yeah, you're right.
What you said is huge though, because listening to it. Yes, look, you go to any late night spot where you can eat in the middle of the night. There's pictures on the menu, right? Because people it's a different. It's easier to digest when you see it.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to listen to it on the radio, but when you put it to video,
Right.
okay, now it's got a little cool factor to it. I don't even have to listen to the music. I can sit and watch the video, and you see, and that's, that growth and that cool factor, and that's who I want to be. That's what I want to do. And then it grows and it grows and grows. And like you said, now you are the platform. And we see that now with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And, we have, people exploiting their actions, on social media, and it gets likes, it gets clicks, it gets attention, and that might be the whole, growing up. That's why everybody gets in the gang, because they get attention, because they feel wanted, or they feel like they belong. Well, you go from having 3 friends to doing something knucklehead and putting it on Facebook, and now you got 3,000 people hearting it and thumbs up and.
No, and that's it. And you look just as, young people, and let's just say those that have mom and dad, let's just say, that are fortunate enough, I'm going to say that have mom and dad, right? Same mom, same dad, and they're in that household. All the things that should be happening are happening for the most part. And even then, the daughter or son is influenced by something that takes them from what they know they should or should not be doing, right? And raised in the right family. I mean, it happens all the time, right?
No, it does.
And so that's just and I guess you can call it a normal or a family that has those said things, right? Which is, for those of us who've never had that, it's like, dude, what a blessing that would be, right?
Right.
And then, which, by the way, those that have it better, a lot of times I've seen are the ones that act the worst around those that are drowning in poverty and violence, and they're seeing everything that you could. I mean, it's hard to imagine the things that folks in the inner city or in poverty have to grow up seeing.
Right.
And yet these right here, that are over here, that have, a lot of times I've seen it, they jump into the same thing and really don't have an excuse to be that way, but they're just being that way anyway. And so we've seen that, but then you go back to those that are hurt, broken, frustrated, disappointment, that have been raped, molested, those that have been starving, that have been, you name it, right? Traumatized, right? Or living in a trap house, or you name it. Now, these aren't excuses, right? But there definitely are reasons, right? The Bible says, in all you're getting, get you some understanding.
Right.
And when you can understand people, it helps you with empathy, right? Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The other one is what? Apathy?
Yeah, empathy was, when you care for somebody else, some understanding, some caring.
Yeah, you put yourself in their shoes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you're able to do that, and only when you're able to do that, get you some understanding, can you really function as a society, right? And when we understand that from these kids, now that doesn't mean we give them there's no accountability, there's no consequences, but it just helps you understand, how our young generation of folks are bleeding out. Now there's some over here that, just knuckleheads and, making some really unhealthy decisions, grew up the right way, and not in a perfect, no one's perfect though, but still grew up in the right way. And these over here are bleeding out. They're hemorrhaging in every way, shape, form, or fashion. And you guys are left to have to arrest us that are like that, right? Some of them are worse than others, right? But either, when I say worse, have had it worse, that's what I meant to say, than others. But nevertheless, we're in that deal. So when you understand that, you devalue yourself because you feel devalued. You're less than.
Right. Somebody
touched me, well, I'm not worth very much. Somebody gave me drugs and told me this, or I've been yelled at by my own dad, mom, I've been, whatever it is, right? There's been horrible things from people that you love and trust.
Right.
Have used you, have told you this, so you feel less than. You're walking in less than. Your self-esteem is very low. It takes nothing for you to snap, crackle, and pop, right? And so when we're dealing with that, then it helps you understand how a person can say, F the world and shoot the moon.
Yep.
I don't care about myself. I don't care about you. I just seen my little cousin get murdered. I seen my big brother get shot. I just seen my mom die in front of me. I am numb. And so when you look at all those things, then it makes sense, right? Of how a person growing up that way, young kids can grow up and say, man, I'm suicidal, really. There's different ways to be suicidal, right? There's, I'm gonna hurt myself, or I'm gonna do something to have you hurt me. Right. And so a lot of times that's how our young people are functioning out of all that hurt, brokenness, and messed upness, and they're making these decisions, right? So they don't care about anything. And so that's why when they witness that, they're still moving. When they're in prison, they're young, their brain ain't fully developed. I mean, you got regular, I don't know if we can call them regular, but just folks that aren't in that much of problems to still make, like, this guy done graduated from high school, he's still making boneheaded. It's just the level, the intensity of it.
Yeah, that frontal lobe hadn't developed yet.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we talked about it earlier. When you talk about feeling devalued, it makes me think about a comment I heard somebody say one time. You take somebody that's devalued and they feel or see themselves as less than.
Yeah.
And then somebody asks them how they're doing. What'd you say a while ago? If you ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
You take a child like that doesn't have that frontal lobe developed. It's easier to tell people they're okay than it is to explain to people why they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to listen to them, or at least that's what they feel.
That's what they feel.
But then you got people in the schools, and you got people that really want to listen.
Yeah.
But they're not going to give those people a chance because they don't believe that exists.
Right.
But this is the beauty of, like, us sitting here, right, being here, is because we all puzzle in and become something healthy for the community, to where if one of us, needs this in the wheelhouse, then we have this over here that can bring it. We complement each other.
Yes.
And this is how we become have a real community, right? When we don't point fingers and say, "Oh, well, this person doesn't." No, but I'm here now. What's up?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We're part of the same team.
Right.
Well, you don't have this, or well, I got Jeff over here. I got Chief over here. So we can make up the things that we don't have, not because we're less than, but because we're limited people.
Yep.
Right. Right.
So that's why this is so important.
Your skill set only goes so far.
Right.
And you need somebody else to what do they say? Two halves make a whole.
That's
There
right.
you go. That's it.
That's right.
That's it.
But go ahead. No.
I know, and that's just sad too. With those children, one of the things is, when they're feeling that less than, and everything, and all the negative things with the family that they're dealing with, and that guy or that lady, who reaches out and start exploiting them with, hey, showing them that attention. The social media they're showing them that attention. So now these guys out there, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be famous. They're on social media. They're out there acting knuckleheads. They've got the gun. They go and shoot somebody. And like you said, I think a lot of it is the two ways to commit suicide. Well, they don't actually want to do it themselves because, of course, I'm hard now. I'm gonna go out in a blaze. You're gonna have to kill me because I hear that a lot. You're gonna have to kill me.
Yeah.
But what's the perception of that? You're saying that because you're in fear and you truly want to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
That's, but us as adults, we don't slow down long enough to listen to what they're saying. We hear them, but we're not listening.
Amen.
We hear them, but we're not listening. And I tell people, sometimes you have to sit back and watch these kids. You have to hear with your eyes. Sounds crazy, but you got to hear with your eyes. Your eyes aren't going to lie to you. You got to hear with them. Listen to what your eyes are telling you. That boy does have a gun. Your eyes are telling you that. So listen, but we don't, because we're moving too fast and we're immediately thinking, I'm the adult, you're going to respect me. I say it all the time, famous quote from Stephen Covey, seek first to understand before being understood.
That's it.
And that's where we're failing our kids. It's we're not seeking to understand. We want them to understand us. They have to know. I demand that you understand me.
So.
Because I said so. No, it can't be that.
Well, and so Jeff, tell us, because we all have concerns for our young people, like everybody sitting at this table, and and I'm going to say this to the community. So if you're out there and you're wondering what's the solution, find some money and then get at me, and I help you understand what the solution is. Okay, but there is a solution, and so we pray and we do, all those things are very important, but there's some tangible things that has to happen to make a difference in our community. And before you get started, just have some money, right? And so if you have some money, holler at me, and we'll do some things, okay? But Jeff, what are the things that you gotta? And we'll move on. But working in your position that you're at now, and you're saying like the young people, so you're having to deal with, all the things that we see in the newspaper, that we hear about, that we see in the streets from our own neighborhoods. I mean, at some point, not all the time, but a lot of the times, it ends up going through your eyes or ears or around where you're at. Can you talk about kind of how does that make you feel just as a person in our community?
I'm scared. I'm scared for my community. There's only so many. There's only so many of us that are out there doing what we do. Yeah. Overtaxed, overworked. It's, hey, let me finish this call so I can go to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. Well, the fact of the matter is a call like that, if you're going to truly touch somebody, if you're going to change their life, if you're going to open their eyes, you're going to take some time. You're going to slow it down. Mm-hmm. But you said it a while ago. I'm talking about slowing down. He said it a while ago. I'm talking about slowing down. He said everything is moving so fast. We are living in an instant world. This phone has all the information needed for anybody. You don't have to read a book anymore. You can just ask Siri what the answer is, and she'll tell you. Right. The slow, steady approach to life, to problems, is gone. It's outdated. I need it now, and if you can't give it to me now, I'm gonna give it to somebody else. You show up on scene, you don't even know who's involved. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna fix this? And that's hard for us, because at the same time we don't want to make a mistake. Right. How many times you hear, I'm gonna sue you, or how many times somebody going, I'm gonna have your job, or I know, and
exactly.
How many times over the course of your career have you been called by somebody for a domestic disturbance, and you show up and you determine one of you is going to leave, and you end up doing what that phone call was intended to do, and that's break up the situation. Right. And you're putting that other person in the car, and the person that called you to break up the situation then comes over your head with something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We don't want to make mistakes, but at the same time, everything around us is moving so fast. We're in a slow it down world where we need to slow everything down, calm everybody down, get all the facts, and make prudent decisions. Right. Seeing what happens on a daily basis, like you guys coming across my desk, it's scary. It's scary because nobody's slowing down. Mm-hmm. Kids today, they want everything yesterday, and they don't have the responsibility to handle it all. I see kids with phones. They're 6, 7 years old, and they got phones. Yeah. With no parental, I'm not that guy, man. I'm not a big government guy, but don't be letting your kids watch some of the stuff that you let them watch and then wonder why they say what they say. Exactly. So
that's good.
Stop advancing. Stop speeding up their growth. Yeah. They'll grow up in time. You don't have to make them grown ups at 10.
Right.
So and one last piece to that, and that might have been it, but what would your outcry from the inside of having to see what you see be to the community?
Man. You know, it's,
You can look in that.
you know,
camera and talk to 'em.
for what it's worth. I mean, it's cliche though. You say it starts at home. It does start at home. You know, it starts at church. It starts in the Bible. It starts with being involved. You know, we got a generation of kids with kids. They don't have time. Like I said, everybody's moving fast. They don't have time to slow down and be involved. If you know who your kids' friends are, you can stem a lot of that stuff. But I've seen it. I've seen it with the agencies that I work with, where specifically an agency tells a parent, "Hey, your kid has been a target in the past, and if you don't get your kid away from those other kids, you're going to go to your kid's funeral." A few months later, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And then those parents wonder why. Well, you had the answer, you just didn't listen.
What would you say, Chief, to that as you y'all kind of cross pollinate with the jobs, right? I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with him. You know, the thing is we see the writing on the wall, and you know, again, we're wearing a different hat, and so we're giving them that opportunity. Hey, this is what we're seeing. You know, this is what's going on. You know, we're giving the tools to equip them. You know, check their social media. You're not their friend, you're their parent. It's okay to be friendly, but at the end of the day, you're their parent. So you have to parent your child. You know, it's okay, you know, to say no. You know, we tell our little girls that all the time. It's okay to say no. You know, if that's not what you want, you say no. And it's okay for parents to say no. I mean, you have to have a balance, and that balance is being able to hold your kids accountable and also be friendly with them, loving and nurturing, and be able to give them the best advice that you can to your ability. And if it's advice that you need to seek help with, it's okay to seek help. All right? There's nothing soft about seeking help. None whatsoever. Nothing. It's okay. Right. You know, so we have to stand up as parents and be bold enough to set an expectation for our kids, hold them accountable, but we also have to lead by example as well. So we can't tell them one thing and do something else, because the kids are going to call you out on it. So be true to yourself, be true to your children, and know that there are avenues out there for people to help you, and they will if you just seek the help.
Man, we're not smarter. We're not. Nobody in the world is smarter than that book. And that book says it takes a village.
That's right.
That's right.
So.
That's right. You know, and that's the thing is we have, as parents, we have to be willing to let the village help. You don't have to do it by yourself. We're
That's
here.
right.
There's three brothers right here sitting at the table together. We're here for you to help.
That's
you know?
right.
So, I mean, the avenues are there. You just have to seek to drive them.
Jeff, you were talking about how long you've known Chief. Man, tell us a little bit about your wife, man. That story.
Wow. You know, we've been together, man, 28 years. We've been together 28 years. Been married.
Hold on, man.
Yeah.
Big hand clap for that.
Man, you know what? We've been married for 24, and we dated for several years before that.
Man.
You know, I know my place. You know,
That's wisdom.
She's you know, she's an investigator in her own right. You know, so we check our pride at the door. We have to understand that we're not always right. You know, and it's a team effort. You know, that's kind of the thing. We've always worked together. You know, except for when I was overseas. You know,
Really?
Yeah, when I was working narcotics, you know, she was working at the jail, and I'd need some help. She'd give me some help. And
Yeah.
then when I came home from overseas, You know, she was an investigator, I was an investigator. We were in different units in different parts of the building.
Yeah.
And now, same thing. You know, we're each doing what we do. She's on one floor, I'm on another floor. But we've always been a team. It's a teamwork approach. We do it with our kids. We do it with our job. You know, people ask me, how do I make it work? And my question is, how do you not make it work?
Right.
You know, that's my best friend. So,
man,
you know, we get up. Now there are days that don't get me wrong. There are days where she gets fed up with me, but you know, I'm smart enough to understand that I wouldn't be who I am without her. So we said it a while ago: 2 halves make a whole.
That's right.
Amen.
So, you know, I got 3 kids. I got one that's 23. I got one that's 17, and my boy splits the middle of those 2 girls. So, you know, he's protecting up and he's protecting down and taking care of himself. You know, this whole endeavor that I'm doing right now is wearing him out because it's really harsh and his mellow. You know, everybody, all of a sudden overnight, everybody knows who he is and where he is, and you know, he can't go anywhere without somebody calling me and telling me, "Hey, I'm watching your boy." I was like, "Yeah, just let him be him." You know.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess him up.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into that, man, so how do you, as a parent, as a husband, you know, and no one hits 1,000 on this, you know, but I know it's your aim to be healthy and balanced, you know, as a husband, as a father, you know, how do you unpack that in your way?
Man, I wish I had an answer for you, because you know, I told my kids, you know, I'm doing the best I can with what I got.
Right.
You know, I tell people, you know, I was gonna have a child. We were gonna have a child when the time was right. And looking back, the time was never gonna be right. You know, God did what He did to us because He knew what time it was. Yeah. So, and you know, when you talk about unpacking it with your kids, I just I don't. A lot of success and failure and learning from that, you know, and you know, we've butted heads. My mother, bless her heart, she got her wish because my son is exactly like me.
Is that right?
Don't laugh. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So my daughters are a lot easier. They're easygoing. You know, my son, he wants to question everything. He wants to learn. He's like, you know, it's not so much as he's you know, defiant or obstinate. You tell him to do something, he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
But he wants to know why. He's always learning. He's always trying to figure it out, and he's always watching. You know, and when you talk about unpacking it, there was a point in my life, especially when I came home from overseas. Yeah. It was hard to be here. You know, I was not in the military. I was embedded with the military. Yeah. So coming home, you don't have those particular organizations that we worked for don't have reintegration programs. So you're in the middle of a war zone for 4.5 years, or you're in the middle of a civil war in Haiti for 2.5 years, and then you come home, and everything structurally is different. You know, not everything is squared away. You know, you somebody forgot to take out the trash, somebody forgot to do the dishes, the dogs haven't been fed, and you start losing your mind, and you just kind of have to stop and understand that they're still learning and they're still growing, and the way you react to them is the example that you're setting. I mean, you're still teaching them even at 17, 18, 19 years old. They're still learning, right? Because I look back to when I was at that age, you know, I wasn't concerned with having a kid, but had I had one my first child came at 28. You know, I didn't, and even then I didn't know what I was doing. I was just praying that I didn't mess it up. Yeah.
Man, how is faith when it comes to your family and you know, what you do out in the community? How does faith play a part in that?
Oh, it's huge.
How so in the
huge.
family?
It's huge. From the family aspect or from the work aspect?
From the family, and then we'll get to the...
From the family aspect is, it's... I do everything with my wife.
Okay.
Growing up, we talked about this before. Growing up, I had a very good barometer. Mm-hmm. I had a very, very good examples in my life of who I did not want to be. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, once I found my wife and I conned her into going out with me, which oh man, that was that took a long time. It took a long time, man, because I was focused on me. I was a knucklehead. I was I was still South Waco. I was waiting tables. It's you work all night. You have a pocket full of money, and then what do you do when you get off work? It's like, where can we go hang out? And she was a lot more squared away at a lot earlier age than I was. So by the time she gave me that chance, I was smart enough to realize that I didn't want to mess it up. Mm. And it ain't from lack of trying, I tell you.
Yeah.
But it's a team effort. You got to get into your faith, and you got to understand that that's what God wants from us. I said a while ago, if you check your pride at the door, treat each other with respect. Let each other know what's expected. My wife tells me all the time what's expected of me. I tell her what's expected, and I don't mean that in a rude or disrespectful way. It's just that we're on the same page.
Right.
I know what she's going to give me. She knows what I'm going to give her, and we make it work. And we try the best to not let each other down.
Right.
But it comes from faith. It comes from understanding and being respectful. The Bible says, what does it say? Don't marry a man that's quick to anger, right?
That's right.
Well, for a long time when I came home from overseas, I was quick to anger. Yeah. And there was a lot of times where she'd come in and she'd, for whatever reason, I thought, well, I'll just go back overseas. For whatever reason, this wasn't working out for me because it's, you live a certain way for a long time. I don't want to say like institutionalized because I can't say that, but when you live a certain way for so long and then all of a sudden everything is upside down, it's not giving in or giving up, but it's just having a hard time dealing with it. One of her biggest deals was, hey, you got to deal with it. She actually told me one time I came home, I told the kids, I said, hey, take the trash out, feed the dogs, do this, do that. And she came in, she goes, hey, you are messing up my program. Mm. Uh-huh. And I looked at her and I said, well, she goes, that's not how we do things. Mm. And I was like, okay, well, let me figure out how you do things and find out where I fit in. Yeah. Because you got to remember, she did that for 8 years. She went through the police academy. She worked in the jail. She went through the police academy. We had 2 kids on the ground, and the third one she had, 4 months after I left. And then I didn't come back for 7 years, So she had a routine. She had a system. Mm-hmm. Just like I thought I was walking into chaos, she thought I was bringing the chaos. Mm. So we had to come to an understanding. It's about being willing to listen.
Man, it reminds me, like, for those who've been in prison, you go to prison, you come out, and there's a new program. Mm-hmm. And you got to get with the program or you're going to mess everything up.
Right.
Because you want it, you've been missing. But in your case, it was, going over there to work, right? Was it work?
Yeah, it was work.
And all that. But anyway, there's some similarities that I'm getting from that. But how did your faith then, how do you lean on God, I guess is what I would say, when it comes to what you do in your career path?
Man, how much time you got? Tell them how much time you got.
Yeah, that's it.
One thing that shout out to my wife and the team of attorneys that she works with. So my wife works for the Crimes Against Children. Okay. So it's the CAC, it's the CAC. Oh yeah. And if there's a child in McLennan County that's been sexually assaulted or beaten, physically assaulted, it goes across her desk. Okay. As the investigator to work with the attorneys that do the prosecution. She and I, when I talk about communication, for the longest time our kids would be upset because we never turned it off. We were working at the sheriff's office. Yeah. I was working narcotics and organized crime. She was working as a property detective. So people were always stealing lawnmowers and stuff to buy drugs. So our jobs were tied together. And we go home, we sit around dinner table, we talk about it. Our kids, weren't sheltered from it, But the day she started working those child crimes, it kind of shut everything down. And she does it day in and day out with those attorneys, that they talk about, sexual assaults of children, of boys, of girls, and graphic, just things you can't even imagine, broken babies and just you've got to have a strong faith to keep pushing through that. And then, then for what we do, you have to make a decision. It's unfortunate. We get up every day and we go out to do a job, to earn a check. And at some point, if you're a police officer, you better be right. One, be right with God, and two, be right with the decision that you might have to make to send somebody to meet God. And if you ever find yourself in that position, you're going to struggle with it when it's over. You're gonna think, the things I've done, will God ever forgive me for the things I've had to do? I've had somebody tell me one time when it came to a situation like that. This is, they tried to tell me, and I guess it depends on which version you read. It says the Bible doesn't say thou shalt not kill. It says thou shalt not murder. Sometimes, if somebody's trying to kill you, you have the right to defend yourself. Yeah, I understand that, but does God understand it? It's I wasn't deep in my faith before I went to Afghanistan. Yeah, you drop yourself in a war zone and you get right with God real quick because you don't understand. You don't understand how people can live like that. Men wearing robes and sandals and riding donkeys, and it was biblical when we got there. I mean, it was truly, it looked biblical, like what you would expect. And you've got to lean on God to help you get through it, because you can't do it yourself. It's impossible to do this job. You see the worst. Tell me, you see the worst of the worst.
You do. I mean, and that's one of the things that people fail to realize. Is that if we didn't have that strong faith, it would be a lot of decisions that we would make that would be wrong. We'll make a lot of bad decisions. God chooses the people that he wants in the positions that we have. All right. And so it makes it a lot easier for us men of faith to do this job because we've been chosen to do this versus, the other men who choose to do the job. Those are the ones that you see in the newspaper, on the news, all over social media, okay, because of the bad decisions that they're making, because they're not involving God in those decisions. Okay?
And not only does it help you do the job, but it helps you recover from the job.
Yeah, it does. It does. We can go into situations with no worry because, I know God's going to take care of me.
Leadership and growth, and we're going back to the kids. Take people who don't believe they can accomplish something. Convince them that they can accomplish it. Give them the equipment and the chance and the opportunity to accomplish it, and watch them accomplish it. And that sets the new normal for them. And once you start setting new normals for people, they will start setting them for themselves, and they will give you more, and they will grow. And then you don't have to, you manage equipment, you lead people. If you can lead people and watch them grow, they will grow around you, and the heavy lifting turns easy. And I've seen it with Chief, and I've seen it at my jobs. I've seen it with the youth. Not all of them got squared away. Most of them did, but convince them that they can accomplish things that they don't believe they can accomplish. And that's our job as a society. That's right. With either our coworkers or our kids, give them confidence.
Right.
Stop living scared. If you want it, go get it. Yeah. In a good way, but if you want it, go get it.
Right. There's many avenues out there for you. The thing is you have to be selfless when you're doing this. You can't expect that gratification. You have to do this from your heart. You know, if you're looking for gratification, I mean, do something else.
Yeah.
You know, do something else. I mean, you're looking to help someone to better themselves, and that's what this is all about. Because, you know, you have to stop and think about it. Everybody doesn't deserve to go to jail. You know, just like Jeff said, everybody doesn't deserve to go to jail. We have to remember that, you know, our judicial system was originally set up for rehabilitation. We need to rehabilitate people to get them back so they can work into society. That's what we want to do. And so with us guys, we're able to offer those opportunities because we have that understanding. You know, we're seeking first to understand. And
Yeah.
that's it.
And for what you guys do, I'd like to finally say that, man, thank you for saying yes to God and being in those positions, because I trust and I pray that you, in your influence, in your job description, that you would do the right thing by people, by all people.
Right.
There's a way to still affirm the God-given dignity in every person,
Exactly.
even when you're doing your job. It doesn't mean you compromise your job, but you do it in a way that's balanced and weighed out, and there's wisdom and understanding and discretion,
Yes.
as you used, in a way that affirms our dignity as people. So me coming from that side, hey man, I'd rather have, you know, folks like you to deal with than somebody that's doesn't. Well, I'll just say it this way: somebody that doesn't lean on their faith, or, you know, is frustrated and upset at home, and so now they're frustrated and upset with me, and the decisions, the discretion you make is based on how you feeling and what you got going on in your life that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Right.
And you're taking it out on me.
Exactly.
And so I thank y'all for at least aiming for that. I'm sure y'all not perfect in that, but it seems like that's your aim. And so thank y'all for doing that.
You got to have a focus. You got to have a focus, and you got to try to do what you can do. I mean, if you got to listen, you're right. You're not always going to be perfect, but if you got a blueprint on how you want to be, and you just, what do they say? You work the plan. You plan the work and work the plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to fall off of it sometimes, but for the most part, you stay with it, and you're going to be successful.
And at some point, it become automatic. It's a part of your DNA.
Right.
So there you go. Thank y'all for tuning in.